Bienvenidos a un programa más de la serie. Hoy en Adelante conversamos con la secretaria del Trabajo, Hida Solis, quien visita Milwaukee, y una presentación de la banda musical de la Buena. También Blankenship, director de la Asociación de Parkinson. Ella fue la primera en su familia que se graduó de colegio, la primera hispana en su estado en servir en el Senado, la primera mujer en recibir el J.F. Kennedy Perfil de Valentía y la primera mujer hispana en servir en el Gabinete Presidencial de los Estados Unidos. Hida Solis está acostumbrada a tomar grandes retos y con 14 millones de desempleados, siendo la secretaria del Trabajo en los Estados Unidos, tal vez el más grande reto que ha enfrentado. Tuvimos la oportunidad de entrevistar a la secretaria Solis sobre desempleo, seguridad en el trabajo y otros.
To be honest with you, it has been a great honor and a challenge. This is not the best of times to be the cabinet member of Labor because of the employment situation, because it is so bad. But that doesn't mean that Hilda's going to step away from a challenge. By all means, I'm going to try to do the best I can.
Secretary Solis, can you talk about workplace safety, which is a big concern among Latinos?
We don't have enough resources to police every business or place of employment. So in our department, what we're trying to do is look at those areas, sectors, for example, in the economy where we know that there have been abuses, patterns of abuses where vulnerable workers, Latino workers, immigrant workers have been taken advantage of, or where we find that employers are not paying them minimum wage, overtime, not paying workers' comp, disability insurance. All of those things fall under the Fair Labor Standards Act.
He is facing deportation because his crime was to stand up for his rights as a worker. He was injured on the job.
It's not necessarily having additional resources, as some would say. It's really just asking for our staff to do a little bit more and to translate materials in Spanish, in Asian languages, and in other appropriate languages so the communities understand what their rights are.
My father worked for many years as a farm worker, railroad worker, and ended up becoming a member of the Teamsters as a shop steward. And he helped to organize immigrant workers in his factory to provide and fight for them for labor protections, for a retirement plan, for overtime pay, all the things that sometimes we take for granted. My father, at a very early age, when I was growing up, was out there helping to get our community the protections they need, at least in his factory.
We had a campaign that you may know of called We Can Help campaign. In Spanish it's called Podremos Ayudar. And it's just giving information, facts, factual basis of what people's rights are. And we're coupling that with our efforts with the different consulate offices that began in the Bush administration with the Mexican consulate. Only I have envisioned this program bigger. We've invited and have written memorandums of understanding with the ambassador of El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and other Guatemala, and we're on our way to getting more of these countries who have legitimate offices here in the United States and also have individuals whom they work with who work in this country and may not know what their rights are.
She is a very important individual for our kind of programs. We serve the migrants and seasonal farm workers out in the fields. Migrants in most states don't get any other services other than what we 167s provide, 167 being the National Farm Worker Program. And it really makes a big difference because it's a lot of the times career centers refer them back to us and they don't provide any services whatsoever. I think sometimes we're the only service that they can get. And she has been instrumental in making sure that when the H-2B program was completely cut and with no real regulations under Bush, she turned around and made sure that those regulations were put back in to safeguard and make sure migrants don't get abused by the employers.
The first thing that Secretary Solis said was, we all need to be concerned about unemployment and about the people that are outside of our doors today looking for jobs.
Well, I think, number one, with the budget crisis the U.S. is facing, it's real important that with the job creation effort and the need to stimulate the economy, that we also look at building the talent and helping people get the training and education they need for those jobs. And UMOS operates a one-stop. which is a job center, and we operate many programs that are funded by the Department of Labor. So we're hoping that that we continue to get Secretary Solis's support to make sure that those programs continue in the future.
While I am a Latina, I have to now be concerned about the entire country. So 14 million people are out of work, a good number, and for Latinos, it's a very high rate of unemployment right now. It's above 11%, and in some communities, it's up to 25%.
Latinos are very good at actually getting employed quicker in some cases than other ethnic groups. But some of the jobs that they go into are not the highest paid. That's why we're encouraging Latinos to take advantage of our job training program so that they can get certificates. We know that there are many construction workers, Latino construction workers, who lost their jobs. We want them to get enrolled in our apprenticeship programs, job training programs, so they could make the transition into restoration of housing, renewable energy, solar panel installation. Many of the skills that they have can be applied to new jobs and new sectors that are actually going to be more cost savings and will give them a better salary.
The President has asked me to talk about that's the American Jobs Act, and that is putting people back to work. And I don't think I have...
The deportation of more than 400,000 Latinos every year during the Obama administration has created a lack of trust among Latinos. How do you see the administration gaining back the trust of this community?
His support amongst Latinos is still very strong. And if you look at the alternative, the opponents that are running against him and some of the people who have recently taken over control of the Congress are very anti-immigrant. In fact, you see more laws coming out at the state level, Alabama being one of them, and you see Arizona, you see other states that are trying to impose their own immigration restrictions. And guess who is fighting them? Through his agency, Department of Justice. That is run by the Obama administration. He has also put forward a new memorandum through the Department of Homeland Security, prosecutorial discretion, to go after the more egregious cases in immigration, the criminal element, and to try to ask ICE agents and others to take a second look and look at those individuals that are not creating or have a background in criminal behavior. So it's changing the way we use our resources, and I think it's been something that I think has been discussed now with the community, and there seems to be more openness. And I think Latino community is starting to understand that not all can be done directly by this president. He still has to have a bill that has to come out of the Congress. Now you tell me if there's going to be enough votes right now given the current makeup of this Congress. It's not there. It got tougher, and the president knows that. But that doesn't mean that he's going to renege on his commitment to see immigration reform or to see that we pass the DREAM Act. He is a big proponent, and he was even before he became president. As a senator, he supported the DREAM Act, and he continues to, and so do I.
We can't lose sight of helping our DREAM Act students. We can't lose sight.
If we were to pass the DREAM Act, we could see potentially more revenue brought in to our Social Security funds, to the overall tax system, if we could bring these people out of the shadow and have them as full taxpayers, and also enhancing their education by starting up their own businesses. We know Latinos, especially Latinas, are the fastest growing segment in small business. So we need that kind of wherewithal. So giving people the facts about the status of our community is very important.
We need you to understand, go online, read our material, give me feedback. You can tweet me, you can go on Facebook, you can email me, let me know how you feel. What's working, what isn't working, or how can you help us expand so more people understand that this bill has to be voted on before the end of the year.
De La Buena, un grupo musical que mezcla ritmos afrocubanos con el jazz, nació en Milwaukee y de ser un grupo de 3 ha aumentado sus miembros a un número de 9. En Adelante, Johnny Muñoz, nuestro productor independiente, conversó con ellos.
De La Buena empezó casi como 7 años para atrás. con mi amigo David Wake, que toca piano en el grupo. Somos amigos por muchos años, estamos tocando con otro grupo que se llama Un Tambor, One Drum. Él es un fanático de Latin Jazz y mi familia siempre era músico. Yo quería hacer un grupo de Latin Jazz, él también. Empezó de la buena con 3 personas, bajo, piano y conga.
Porque todo es para menos, ya que todos aquí sabemos que de la buena está llegando.
Andy Noble, estamos tocando bajo, David Wake, piano y yo. Y de ahí empezó la música y de ahí empezó formar una mezcla de un sonido y después, un año después, hicimos ensayos para tener una persona que toca batería y mi amigo Julio en percusión y de ahí empezó el grupo y ahora estamos 9.
Yo tocaba con Cecilio y también con David Wake, el maestro del grupo. Tocamos en otro grupo que se llamaba One Drum y de ahí me preguntaron si yo quería estar en el grupo de Latin Jazz y ahí me metí y eso es historia. Se puede encontrar armonía vocal, vocalismo de cantando como el son y también cantando música afro-cubano. Y también se encuentra mucha música, mucha influencia del mundo, de África, del Caribe, de Brasil y también de aquí, de la música de América, de rock y jazz.
Tenemos música original y tenemos un disco ahora que se llama La Tortuga y tenemos músicas de otros artistas, música vieja como el cumbanchero. Tenemos una mezcla, música original y también música vieja.
A veces hacemos originales, pero el disco tiene como cuatro covers y el resto son originales. Tenemos un disco del año 2005 de canciones en vivo y ahora salió un disco que se llama La Tortuga. Lo tenemos en LP, el vinyl, y también lo tenemos en CD. Mucha gente que están comprando el vinil para tocar en los clubs y para mezclar la música en vivo, como los DJs. La música es para todos. Cuando vengas a un show vas a ver la gente de todos los lugares, latinos, americanos que tienen raíces en Alemania y franceses. Van a ver africanos, van a ver no solo puertorriqueños o latinos, pero cubanos, hondureños, de todos lados.
Somos diferentes, una mezcla de personas, ¿no? Latinos, blancos, diferentes personas.
Cuando vengas a un show se puede esperar un poquito de historia de la música latina, una representación de la mezcla de la música ahora y también un toque de música espiritual.
Música es en tu corazón, siempre vive con tu corazón y sigue con la música, con tu arte.
La música es para representar la vida buena y la música buena.
Sigue escuchando de la buena y soportando música en vivo, local.
Más de 1 millón de personas en los Estados Unidos padece la enfermedad de Parkinson, la cual se presenta frecuentemente alrededor de los 60 años de edad. Jay Blankenship, director ejecutivo de la Asociación de Parkinson en Wisconsin, está con nosotros para hablarnos de los recursos que ofrece esta organización. Jay, thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Jay, can you tell us about the structure of the Wisconsin Parkinson Association and what is the role that you play on it?
Would be happy to. I'm the executive director. We call it the WPA. The WPA is primarily a statewide organization, but we actually have members and groups in 5 states. So we're somewhat of a regional organization. We also are connected to the National Parkinson Foundation. We're a chapter of that organization, which is one of the largest Parkinson associations in the country. So we have a far-reaching mission. And our job is we're trying to increase awareness and understanding about Parkinson's disease. We want people who don't have the disease to have a better understanding of what it is, and so they can appreciate and respect people who have it. We want to make sure that medical professionals can recognize and diagnose the disease so that patients get the best care and treatment possible. And we want to make sure that we're raising money to support research to discover the cause and a cure of the illness. We also support people in the community who have the disease and make sure that they have enough information and education so that they can help themselves and live a good, long, healthy life.
It sounds like it is a big job what you have in there.
It's a big job. We have about 5,000 members, and we serve over 10,000 people a year.
That's wonderful, Jay. Can you tell us what is the incidence of this illness?
Well, it's really hard to say. Over the years, the studies on incidence and prevalence haven't been very good. But recently, the estimates have been 1.5 to 2 million people in the United States have Parkinson's. But recently a study was done out of Washington University in St. Louis, the medical school there, and they found that the prevalence rate of Parkinson's is much higher than we once thought. In fact, in some parts of our country, the Milwaukee area being one of them, the prevalence rate is as high as 10% of people over 65 have Parkinson's disease. That means in the 5-county area around Milwaukee, there could be 20,000 people with Parkinson's.
Well, this sounds like something that is not expected. It was, for me, it was an illness that for many years I didn't know about. But what is research saying about how to prevent Parkinson? And if there is a person who already has the illness, what can be done to stop or to do better for them?
Right. Well, first let's back up a little bit and talk about what is Parkinson's disease. It's a neurological disease, so it's a disease of the brain. There's a certain part of the brain where the cells die and they stop producing a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is responsible for the smooth, coordinated movement of our muscles. So when that dopamine goes away, it leads to symptoms which are typical in Parkinson's disease: the tremor, slowness of movement, rigidity, where the muscles are real rigid and stiff, and balance issues. Some of the other problems are trouble walking. People shuffle their feet or have a small gait. They have a tendency to fall backwards. They have a problem with salivation in the mouth, swallowing. Sometimes their voice is soft, or they might have real small handwriting. We don't know the cause of Parkinson's disease. We're trying to figure that out. Nobody knows what causes it. So we can't do anything to prevent it. There's nothing known yet to prevent it. We believe, our researchers think that there may be an environmental toxin that causes Parkinson's. It could be something in manufacturing or industry. It could be a pesticide, an herbicide, but some chemical in our environment may cause that part of those cells in the brain to die. So what we're trying to find is what that chemical is so that we can prevent the disease. With regard to treatment, there is good news. There is medication that will help people with Parkinson's. Years ago, when you had a diagnosis of Parkinson's, often the doctor said, "I'm really sorry, you have a chronic progressive disease, and over time you're going to get worse and worse and worse." That is no longer the case. There's medication now that can help people with Parkinson's, and it will make the symptoms much better or make them go away, and people can live a long time with this disease and do quite well.
How are Latinos doing at this illness, at the incidence, and regarding the incidence in other groups?
Well, you know, Parkinson's disease affects all people in all countries, all ethnicities, all the same. In some recent studies, here's what we learned. Hispanics and Caucasians have the highest rates of Parkinson's disease. In a study in 2003 in California, they did a study and found the Latinos there had a higher rate of Parkinson's than any other group. For some reason, African Americans and Asians' rates are lower. The concern, of course, is maybe they're just underreported. In some cultures, Parkinson's disease isn't necessarily recognized. It's seen as just part of aging or part of getting older, and that's not the case. If people have a tremor, slowness of movement, trouble walking, balance issues, they should see a neurologist to get a diagnosis.
Jay, how can people find more information about your organization and where to go, and what is the organization needing from our audience? Sure.
First of all, they can find us online. Our website is www.wiparkinson.org, and there's all kinds of information about our organization and Parkinson's disease there. Or we have an 800 number, which is 800-972-5455. They can call anytime. And if someone believes they have Parkinson's disease, we can help refer them to the right doctor to get diagnosis. If they have concerns, questions, or trouble with their Parkinson's, we can help them find services or products in the community that can help them. If people want to help us, we certainly accept donations. We are completely dependent on charitable donations for our budget, or they can volunteer. We have committees where they can help. We do a lot of fundraising events. We need a lot of help for that. And our patients need help in the community as well.
Jay, it has been a pleasure to have you in Adelante. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Patricia. It was a great pleasure.
Al final de un programa más, por favor déjenos saber sus comentarios al teléfono 297-7544 o escríbanos a nuestro correo electrónico adelante@matc.edu. Visítenos en nuestro sitio del internet en mptv.org y en Facebook. Sintonícenos en canal 10.1 o 36.2 todos los martes a las 6:30 de la tarde. Y en canal 36.1 los miércoles a las 12:30 de la medianoche y los domingos a las 5:30 de la tarde. Soy Patricia Gómez. Muy buenas noches.